So many of you know Comrex, and for those of you who don't, I mean, our wheelhouse is IP audio codecs for uh, live transmission of sports, news, any kind of live commentary. Also, telephone interface products, and we also have a range of IP video codecs for transmitting and receiving high quality audio and video over IP. And So to have this topic up on the screen might make you have some of you scratching your heads because why would Comrex, who does IP codecs, be talking about wireless mic frequencies and the issues that you have with them? Well, to be honest, I mean, a lot of people use our IP audio codecs for sporting events, whether it's girls softball, basketball, football, in the high school level, the college level, um, and even in some of the minor league level. And we have a lot of professional teams that are using our stuff as well. And one of the number one questions that not just me, but all of the employees at Comrex get asked is, what do we do about sideline reporting? And, the answer is usually, well, go out and buy yourself some electrosonics gear and remortgage your radio station, and you should be all set. Well, I think we all know that with the recent uh, auction that went on a few years ago in the 600 megahertz range, our frequencies that are available to us as broadcasters, whether it's in radio or TV, they're kind of shrinking. So I thought we would talk a little bit about history, and what better place to start out than Comrex's history, who many people don't realize that back in 1961 invented one of the very first wireless microphones for television. And that is surprising to some people. John Cheney, who was our founder, was a retired U.S. Army radio specialist. He got out in the late 50s and was trying to figure out what to do with his government education. And watching TV, he couldn't understand why every television reporter out there had a big long cable that had to go back to um, the camera to record the audio, um, and take those reels back and get them developed. He was like, that should be wireless. I have the technology. Let me make that and sell it. So he actually created that 26 megahertz based wireless microphone for television and sold them to a lot of TV stations in New England, and quickly caught the attention of the NFL, Broadway, a lot of theater productions, and he was selling them all over the place. And that's actually a picture of John Cheney in the booth there on the right hand side of that photo. And that I'm pretty sure that photo's from the 70s because I think that's just when color film was being introduced. And so John's there working hard trying to sell some stuff. We kind of went from 26 megahertz queuing systems to 450 to 451 megahertz queuing systems, and also listening devices. We made a thing called the LPQRA CTA, which was a Q transmitter and receiver, which was crystal based. It had a little switch, and you could actually put two different frequency tuned crystals in it and switch between the two channels based on what the director was telling you. The LPQRA transmitter would sit out in the truck. The director would basically call out to everybody that had one of those little belt packs on and tell them which channel to switch over to. Um, and to be honest, I haven't seen any of those in any TV stations for at least, I want to say, 6 or 7 years. Probably when we ran out of the ability to get crystals. The last I heard, there was a small country in Eastern Europe. It might have been Russia. It might have been Belarus. Little tiny village. Some guy was still making them, but I no longer hear from them, and no longer any requests for crystals for these radios. But I've seen them in TV stations sitting on a rack in those little leather pouches, so that's kind of fun. But tons and tons of people, um, radio stations and television stations, were using um, these devices. You can see those old CP8, CP16 cameras over there with the wireless receivers on them, and the reporter with their wireless transmitter. And there you have it. We actually kind of got our business started by making all of these wireless mic products and transmission products and monitoring products. That lasted until about 1969. And during that time, between 1961 and 69, we made really good friends with Telex because almost every one of those devices had a Telex headset attached to it. And John went to consult for Telex for a number of years instead of making products. So while they tried to figure out what to do next, the biggest problem we had was propagation issues in that 26 megahertz and 450, 451 megahertz band because of all things, 50,000 kilowatt potato chip dehydrators that were operating in that 26 megahertz frequency to dry out potato chips. Who knew? So we were having a lot of issues with signal propagation in that industrial science and medical band, and it kind of drove us out, which kind of brought us to the frequency range that we're in now for wireless communication, and we'll talk about that in a second. But one of the things that we did is we kind of pivoted, especially with telecom changes in the 80s, where you can now put hardware onto a telephone line without Ma Bell suing the pants off of you. And we created a bunch of frequency extenders. One of the very first ones in 1978 called the PLX TLX. Um, and so there you have it. We kind of moved into the world of looking at widely deployed data infrastructures that weren't governed by the FCC overtly, um, maybe just Part 15 requirements, and we got into some other hardware as well. That brings us to present day when we look at the frequencies that are available for us to use as broadcasters for um, wireless mics and IFBs. And it's really kind of not a lot of space considering all of the frequency allocations that are out there. We're kind of stuck between 470 megahertz and 608 megahertz, and good luck finding some space at a remote. I mean, if you've ever done an NFL game, you know how tightly controlled frequencies are. If you've ever done a college game, you know how it's kind of the Wild West when it comes to trying to find frequencies on um, that are available for the gear that you own. This is from one of our fellow vendors out there in the public that actually shows what kind of bands we have available for us for wireless mics, and it's just not a whole lot. And there's since that T-Mobile auction that happened several years ago, we have little tiny space in the 600 megahertz band. It's between 652 megahertz and 663 megahertz for doing duplex digital on it. Okay, I'm not going to read all this, I promise, because I hate people that read PowerPoints, but I just threw this up here just to show the challenges that we have with wireless mic frequencies, the shrinking available spectrum, interference from other devices, and all the technical challenges. Um, and we all know that there are many, um, and we're all fighting to get space for events. Uh, so, what do you do to combat all that? Well, uh, frequency coordination at major sporting events is important because not only do you have other broadcasters, but you also have first responders, um, and you also have entertainment, and you have anything that uses a wireless microphone typically will need to be coordinated, especially in a stadium, and it could be a challenge. You can do things like buy new equipment, which is really expensive. I know that Sennheiser and Shure both have some new wireless multi-channel audio systems available that allows you to put more um, channels on a specific frequency. There are software tools. There are all kinds of licensed versus unlicensed options, and there's also advocacy. So we can actually join a group like Nabanet, NABANET.com, and talk to fellow broadcasters that are pretty sore about our shrinking frequencies that are available to us to do our jobs. Okay, so what can you do if you need to? And this is the answer that I give to everybody that calls us up and says, okay, well, you guys don't have anything. What do I do for um, wireless mic and IFB stuff? And well, there's Shure, there's Sennheiser, Electrosonics, AKG, Samsung, Clearcom. They're all really great products. And they also, some of these have this wireless multi-channel audio system available. The biggest problem that customers have when I tell them about all these is the cost. Because to get into a um, set of radios for a sideline reporter, just a single reporter, you're dealing with four different radios, two transmitters, two receivers, one on each side. So you have a transmitter receiver that the report is wearing. You have a transmitter and receiver that the press box has up in there, and they can cost anywhere from $1,500 for a pair to several $1,000s for a pair. It's not unlikely to get um, some Electrosonics radios for about $6,000. They're really good, but can a high school, small college, university, maybe a minor league sports team, they just can't afford them. So people were asking us, you guys have to be able to do something. Well, I guess we can. Um, One of our biggest customers that uses Electrosonics and yet never has enough frequencies to go around, especially when they're at a home game, is Learfield Sports. They do the majority of the college sports rights syndication in the United States. And I figured what better place to figure out what the pain points are for sideline reporters than to go to an SEC game. And in this case, we went to the Missouri Arkansas game during rivalry week in Columbia, Missouri, when it was 20 below and 7 inches of snow. So that was fun for me, who lives in Atlanta, but we did it anyway. Um, we really wanted to find out what it was like for these sideline reporters carrying around all that gear, what it was like for the folks in the press box, and what it was like if you're at the away team trying to figure out how am I gonna how am I gonna find a frequency to uh, use my gear on. Well, I did find out that sometimes when people show up and there aren't any frequencies available for their gear that they own, they might have to rent them from a local shop that has the frequencies at about $1,100 per pop for the weekend. So I'm told that it's always easier at home than on the road. And I don't think that really makes a lot of difference, even when you're dealing with professional sports. Now, I know NFL has frequency coordination. MLB, I'm told, does not. NHL and NBA do not. MLS does not. Um, so it really can be kind of Wild West if you're really needing to do sideline reporting, and you never know if you're going to get interference on your channel. Sometimes you just have to kind of cross your fingers. So one of the things that we did is we measured 2.4 and 5 gig Wi-Fi while we were there in the stadium to figure out, obviously um, the frequencies in that 407 to 608 megahertz band were pretty congested. What about Wi-Fi? Well, when we looked at the Wi-Fi at Missouri and Columbia, there wasn't a whole lot, and it was actually not being overly heavily used. I think people were using a lot of 4G or trying to upload to Facebook and Instagram and all their socials and stuff. Um, and it was really just being used for ticket takers and things like that. So our technical director had the idea of, well, maybe we could use a private Wi-Fi access point and use an app using the Opus coding algorithm to connect back and replace two radios with a readily available that everybody has in their pocket um, smartphone, whether it's iPhone or Android. And if you look at the picture, you can see a little Wi-Fi access point that's hanging out of the press box there at Coolray Field in Gwinnett, which is just down the road from me. And I have my little test rig set up over there on the side um, that's providing PoE power to that Wi-Fi access point, plugging it into my network and connecting directly to a BrickLink. And I set it up so I could hear myself as I walked around the stadium and record. And the test was pretty fabulous. While I did notice that they had 443 wireless access points in the 200 or the 2.4 gig band, um, there wasn't a lot of contention. I had a private SSID on my wireless access point, and I was able to walk all the way around the ballpark, including to the outfield where that apartment complex back there has a pool where you can get lounge chairs in the pool. to watch the game from center field, which is pretty spectacular. Not that that's part of our testing, but I just thought it was neat. Um, but the audio was clear. Using the Opus coding algorithm, it was 20 hertz, 22 kilohertz, and I I was very happy with that test because essentially we were looking at creating a product that could utilize this technology to do that. Now, my next test was a little bit more intimidating because I went to Truist Park where where the Atlanta Braves play. In this case, it was an afternoon game, but there were still 33, no, was it? Yeah, 33,902 people in the stands, a lot of concrete and steel, um, and a much bigger stadium. And we're going to hear a little bit of the test that I did from just beyond the left field center wall on the main concourse, which is about 200 feet up from the field and probably about 700 feet away from the access point.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
You can see the arrow where the access point is.
So I'm kind of like, what is this? Left center? Way out here on the main concourse. This is like the last place I wanted to try, other than parts of the field, but I would imagine from the bullpen, which I'm behind, it would be pretty good. So I'm actually off to the stage right of both bullpens and the chop house. Oh no, that's the other bullpen. So whose is that? That's the Rockies over there. I'm right between the two. So if I was reporting from the bullpen, I think it would be that bad. So I'm in the main concourse stands behind the bullpens, near the water fountain, just to the stage right of the scoreboard. Oh, there's a base hit. And there's a run. There's one run. And there's advance to second and third. Don't even know what the score is. Okay. It's really hot where I'm at. I'm starting to sweat. So I think I'm going to end this test because I think where most of the reporting would be done, whether it's in the stands or if it's in the bullpen, this would be a pretty good example in a professional park where there's, I'm going to guess 20,000 maybe, but I'll try and get the actual stats. So I'm going to disconnect now and walk back to the booth.
Okay, as I said, it was 33,902, and I'm 700 feet away from the wireless access point, which is way up there in the press box. And that's probably about 100 feet beyond the usability range. But where the bullpens are, where people would be reporting from, or even from from the dugouts and so forth, we'd be a lot closer to that wireless access point. But one of the things that I'm kind of excited about is the folks at Braves Vision with the Atlanta Braves asked me to come back because they want to try it out on their private network, which basically is a bunch of meshed and networked wireless access points all the way around the stadium, which would obviously give a lot more coverage for something like this. And since I'm just dealing with one wireless access point, I'd have to say that that test was pretty darn good, considering using my Android smartphone and a USB-C mic, which I'll show you in just a second. So the product that
this is like the last place I wanted to try.
You heard that, so I'm going to turn that off. The product that we've developed is something called FieldLink, and FieldLink is kind of built on the hardware that we developed for our BrickLink IP audio codec. But in this case, we're dealing with kind of a different scenario. It is a two-channel sideline reporter codec that you can use your smartphone, scan that QR code on the little screen on the front, and it'll associate your phone with the wireless access point and the codec. And those two reporters can then hit the connect button on the free FieldTap app and connect into it. They'll be internally conferenced and sent to the channel A output, which can go to a mixer. You take the mix minus off of that mixer back into it so they can hear the folks in the press box. And you have a two-channel sideline reporting codec. if you already have one of our Access NX codecs, you can actually use the front panel connectors to connect it to the line level in and line level out, put the codec into mix minus mode, and use that to send your audio back to the station. But let's say you don't have one of those codecs, you can actually license FieldLink to connect to a codec back in the studio. And that codec could be an Access or a Bricklink from Comrex, or it could be another brand's IP audio codec that supports Tech 3326 SIP interoperability. So now you have a box that is three codecs in a single little frame, and it uses the free Comrex FieldTap app for iPhone and Android to do your sideline reporting. Uh, the device that we're looking at here, the FieldLink on the right-hand side front panel. On the back panel, you have your audio A in and out. Audio B is for connecting to that codec back in the studio. You have a PoE port, which will allow you to take the wireless access point, which looks remarkably like this Grandstream. Um, uh, it is a GWN 7664 ELR wireless access point, and you can plug it right into the PoE. Um, this is an early version of the rendering, and so the power input is a USB-C 45 watt power supply that goes into that. There's also a network port, so if you wanted to um, send internet to the people on their phones, you could do that because typically on the smartphone, we recommend that people put it into airplane mode and do not disturb so they're not getting calls while they're in the middle of a report. But by plugging internet into that network port, it would send that internet to the devices that are connected to it. Um, and again, if you have your Grandstream set up with a um, private SSID and it's your private wireless access point and a channel that's not very congested, um, you're going to have very good results with it. And that's been my testing so far. Um, one of the things that makes this kit even more attractive is you might have a smartphone, but you could also use a USB-C microphone. And I'll show these to you right after I shut down the PowerPoint. Um, and let's see. Yeah, let's just go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to show you this. So this is a IK iRig HD2 USB-C microphone. Has a USB-C port on the bottom. It also has an 1/8 inch or a 3.5 millimeter tip ring sleeve port. So you can plug a pair of earbuds into it, and then you can USB-C right into your iPhone or Android, as long as you have a more modern iPhone. Um, the cool thing about this mic is it's got gain control and it also has a headphone output control. So you can control the audio, the IFB coming back to this and to your earbuds. There's another device that we like, which is made by Shure. Um, it's called the MVX2U. And again, it's a USB interface, but it's a XLR adapter that can plug into your SM50, what is it, SM58? Yeah, SM58. And then you can USB into your phone, and then again, headphone output. So now you have your two-way communication kit for sideline reporting that can connect to FieldLink. This is probably one of the most exciting toys that we've come up with in a number of years, and we are getting a lot of excitement about it because um, for less than $2,000, you have two sideline reporters and a lot of off-the-shelf, consumer off-the-shelf stuff like these microphones and then the Grandstream GWN 7664 ELR, and the ability to mesh them. In fact, I'm waiting for um, the UPS guy to deliver my second wireless access point so I can go out and experiment with meshing that together. Um, so as long as I have just an electrical outlet, I could put it on the other side of the football stadium, hanging up on a pole somewhere. And of course, I wouldn't do it without permission because that would be bad. Got to have permission from facilities managers. Um, and I have now a mesh network that expands my range. So we're pretty excited about this technology, and it's kind of coming full circle from having done early wireless microphone stuff. and it just makes sense to continue to ride that wave of technology and utilize something that everybody has in their pocket. Because, boy, if it was my money, I'd much rather have somebody use their own phone than to use a $4,000 piece of hardware that they could leave in a car or stupidly drop or spill water on. Not that that's ever happened to anybody in this room, I'm sure. Um, I would be happy to answer any questions about this technology development that we're underway on, and
The
happy to
so-called
listen.
iPhone Android connection, is this on, are they transmitting to, or transceiving uh, to a, how shall I say this? Um, a something particular that separates that from the rest of the iPhone traffic that would come up in a stadium?
Yeah, pretty much we're shutting off the cellular stuff and just turning on the Wi-Fi, so the
Okay.
2.4 and 5 gig Wi-Fi, and putting it into a do not disturb mode, so that all the other apps aren't going to interrupt the broadcast. And so far, and it seems odd. I'm an Android guy. Um, it seems like I'm having like touching the screen issues that I haven't solved yet on my Android. An iPhone's been a little bit better. Actually, sounds a little bit better, which hasn't always been the case. Um, but it's pretty much just using a private Wi-Fi connection between the phone um, and that wireless access point, which is directly plugged into the back of the FieldLink.
Questions. Number one, what's the latency on it? And number two, have you considered just a straight piece of hardware? I would think that the internal antenna on a cell phone is going to be less than optimal compared to a dedicated piece of hardware with a Wi-Fi, not access point, but a Wi-Fi client built into it.
So, couple of answers to your questions. First of all, to get it to market quickly, and since we already have that free app working, and a lot of people are already using it, it's the most expeditious way that we can get this in the hands of, the high school football player or high school football teams and small colleges, universities, and minor league teams. Um, have we considered? I've considered doing something because I've had a few professional teams saying, I really don't want to use a smartphone because my people will mess it up. We just want a little box that you can plug in and connect to it. That might be our next product. I haven't mentioned that to my technical director yet, but it's heavily on my mind um, because I know we can do it. We've actually done it for a prototype several years ago. It might be something we revive just to make an idiot proof box that has an XLR mic input and quarter-inch headphone output that's battery operated. Um, and believe me, I know how important that is because I feel bad because I'm getting to the age of where this guy who did this is. Except I don't think I was that clueless. He was an old AM news guy, and I was teaching him Audio Vault when it first came out, and um, he was used to like I probably using a wire recorder to play actualities back, but he walks into my studio and he looks at the screen and he picks up my mouse and he goes, testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. He goes, this isn't working. And he throws it down and walks out. So that was fun. Yeah, that's why I think, that piece of hardware thing would be a good idea.
Well, you had that box with power over Ethernet. Uh, what network protocol was that? Would that have been using? Um, Dante maybe, or Ravenna, or one of the others. I know there are a whole bunch out there, but
I'm sorry, what is our box using? Our IP audio codec?
yeah.
So our Access NX rack and Access multi rack are actually using just AES 67 Ravenna. Um, it's
Thank you.
kind of it's kind of the open protocol because we really didn't want to have to pay licensing fees to a competitor. Um, so we kind of and to be honest, I mean, we're not a huge company. We try to be lean. We try to be responsible with our money and our customers' money. We're not owned by a giant corporation. We're owned by ourselves. So, um, you know, to make it work with a WheatNet, a live wire with a Dante, with a AES 67 Ravenna system like Lavo, AES 67 is already there. The only thing
Yeah.
it doesn't do is um, control and capture and control. Um, but there's a protocol for that that nobody will ever support because that's where everybody's secret sauce is kind of buried. Um, I've been asked by some large customers to natively support Dante. Um, but again, it's licensing fee and something else we have to support. And um, uh, mm,
I'm using a lot of Ravenna, but so to say, okay. What's
well, the nice
typical?
thing is the driver we use is based on AES 67 Ravenna. So it plays nicely with all of the things that have been built um, based on that protocol. Dante is actually AES 67 Ravenna compatible, so there's a little switch in Dante that makes it really easy to make it work. Um,
The understanding that I have is that they both can work together on the same network, but they don't talk to one another. So
Correct. They use different PTP clocks. There's a PTP version 1 clock and a PTP version 2 clock, and blah blah blah. So, but we're fortunate that we have a nice driver that supports AES 67 very nicely and plays well with others.
What's typical latency through the system?
Oh, on FieldLink,
Yeah.
I haven't measured it, but chances are it's probably just the Opus encode latency. Because as I was walking around Coolray, there was virtually no latency. I'd say maybe like a quarter of a second at most. Um, and it really didn't get a lot worse than that. And so for communication back and forth, it was, I mean, quarter second latency was pretty tight, I thought. I mean, I could talk with the audio coming back into my headphones, and normally I would just flip my headphone off and not want to listen to it. It wasn't bad enough that it bothered me that much. So that's why, you can hear 6 milliseconds of latency. I would say just above that, it was it was okay. But I'm sure we'll find out more as we move farther into this, further down the rabbit hole, as it were.
Have you got this product out on the market now, or what?
I wish. We're trying to get it out. We were trying to get it out in time for the start of fall sports season, but we had a 3 week delay while we respun up a prototype board, so it's probably going to be second week of September, unless my engineering team surprises and delights me, which sometimes they do.
Quite a fascinating situation, because I can remember when we were doing lots of big sporting events, when they took away the 150, 130 meg band for wireless mics, and somebody'd show up with one, and then they'd just stadium had come unglued because they were just wiping out everything. But it's what you're talking about is using digital packets opposed to RF transmission. Well, you're still using RF transmission, but you're using the digital packets. And with a 6 millisecond latency on it, that's not very much between the human ear and the mouth when you're receiving that stuff. I mean, it's no worse than what you're doing now, being in Georgia and us out here. Stop and think about it. But you got a wonderful product, because that way you can actually have many of these type of situations in a stadium, and they don't bother each other. That's the whole thing. Because I remember one time we went into a stadium, And the coordinator came to us and said, what's your frequencies? And I said, I don't know, because I hadn't paid that much attention to it. Well, he said, you can't use anything right now until I see them. So you're out a sideline reporter unless it's hardwired. So I think your situation is pretty good. I hope you get it to where you're not having so much trouble with the Android phone, because that's most of the ones. But a lot of these companies will support the iPhone over an Android because of the fact that it has better audio quality coming out of it when you're talking back. Have a nice day.
You know what? It just occurred to me that if you remember, Dan Rather had that guy in a trench coat that came up to him 20 years ago and threw him into a dark hole and said, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?" He must have been a frequency coordinator for the NFL or something. I don't think anybody ever thought of that, but poor Dan. Well, yeah, we've been trying to figure out a way to skin this cat for a while, and it really took us going to an SEC game, which I've been to pro games, and it's usually somewhat sedate, but an SEC football game, there's like 15 to 20 people in every press box, and they're all doing something really, really important, and it's kind of like controlled chaos. Um, so it was a really good kind of litmus test for this thing to see how it worked, and we're pretty excited. We think it's going to really take off. We're under no preconception that it's going to replace the Sures, the Sennheisers, the Electrosonics, because those are the top end. We're just looking to be a solution for the people that want to do the job at a more affordable cost, um, without all the gear and the expense. So we think there's a hole in the market for it, and we're pretty excited to be able to present it. How was the barbecue today, by the way?
Great.
Pretty decent.
Excellent.
Wish you were here.
Well, me too. Next time, I'll be out there for sure.
Okay.
Thank you for hosting.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
And I'll be planning my second trip to Crater Lake next time, without running out of gas and without missing the last usable hours of daylight. So,
Yeah. And if you come in the fall, remembering that they close the place in October.
because of that snow thing that they've got.
Yeah, and the 7,000 foot altitude.
Yep. Well, when I was there in May, I think I did it. I had done the SBE Trail of Tears in May, and ended up going to Medford, and I think I left Eugene, headed to Medford, and forgot to put gas in because I was just entranced by the beauty of Oregon. So there it is.
You had AAA.
Well, I don't know if I told you people the story, but I actually got rescued by a guy from the Department of Transportation, Oregon Department of Transportation.
Hold on.
Yes.
And it was really funny because he said, "You're lucky I'm from Ohio because someone from Oregon would not have picked you up." Yeah, so it was an experience.
Well, thanks, Chris.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I'm going to go get some lunch now because you've made me hungry.
Always good to hear about new products.
Yes.
I think this is going to be one that's going to work good.
Especially in the markets you're talking about. So I think maybe it'd work with some of the YouTubers out there too. Some of their applications.
I'm thinking also churches as well, because they're getting tighter and tighter with their microphones and getting interference. So it's another menu. They have to do it in a very cost-effective way.
I had Manny Centano from FEMA come up to me and said, this would be great if we were at a site and we had people out trying to guide people with microphones and being able to communicate with them, this would be a perfect scenario for that. And I went, okay, I'm down with government spending some of my money for that.
Need that 20 to 20,000 hertz. You know,
Yeah.
voice.
Yes,
Chris, the model number of the Grand Stream.
It is the GWN 7664 ELR, and we're going to be stocking it. And the reason being that it does require a little bit of config to make it work, and we're going to pre-configure it with units that we sell. That way, you can just plug it into your PoE, and you guys aren't having to do all the work of getting that set up. You should be able just to take it out and make it work.
That's the access point is the Grand Stream.
Correct. That's the wireless access point that we're selling. It's kind of an amazing box, to be honest, because it has the ability to do site surveys. So you can actually, and that's how I knew that there were 443 access points at Coolray. There were 669 at the Truist Park, because it gives you that report. It actually will allow you to paywall it as well. So you can use it as a paid wireless access point if you wanted to. So you could set it up at a festival and charge people $10 for Wi-Fi, put your station logo on it, mesh them together. I mean, it's an amazing little box for less than $200.
Wow.
Yeah. And it does a lot more stuff. There's a lot of security features in there, a lot of reporting features. So it will do some reporting, and it is controllable with a cloud service that GrandStream makes available for free. And you can actually see who's connected to it, how long they've been connected to it, how much bandwidth they're using. It's been really useful in testing. And I think we kind of got lucky with this because it's a pretty good fit for our application, I think.
Ubiquity Unify has some very, very similar features and also a good price point.
Yeah, I mean, there's MikroTik, there's Ingenious, there's Ubiquity, like you said. There's a lot of them that are out there. We just had to settle on one that we could configure and ship out that was the right price. And did a lot of reviews, checked out reviews, saw what people said about reliability and dependability. I've used a lot of Ubiquity before. I like the M5 Bullet and the M2 Bullet. Those are nice little products. But we'll probably make a list of devices that are compatible and work well with FieldLink. But for pre-config, we'll sell this one, and I think people will really enjoy setting it up.
Say what the model number of that was again, please.
GrandStream
Yes.
GWN 7664 ELR.
You mentioned you did your test at 2.4. Did you try the 5 gig band, and what were any differences there?
Just in terms of probably reliability, especially between concrete and steel, the 5 gig gets a little bit lost a little bit quicker. The 2.4 seemed to have better signal propagation. So that's kind of why we are hanging out in that range right now. I know that using certain aspects of the 5 gig outside are verboten by the FCC because apparently you'll take airplanes out of the sky or something. I don't know. But I think 2.4 is kind of where we're sticking for now. But that's what my tests have borne out to this point. All right. Well, I'm going to let you guys enjoy the rest of your meal. Kent, thank you very much for setting this up.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'll tell the guys down in Eugene that you said hello.
Great. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
All right. We'll see you.
All right.